Recently, I reacted to a video that was called How Rich is Norway? I was very impressed. I'm really in awe and also envious of how well Norway is run, how successful the economy is, how rich the country is. Just a perfect example for other countries to follow. I know that obviously Norway has access to a lot of natural resources with oil, and that kind of makes it a little bit different from a lot of countries, but the way they actually manage that and reinvest it in the people of the country, I absolutely love and appreciate. I hope we can somehow do that in Scotland one day. But following up How Rich is Norway, I wanted to check out this video. It's called How Powerful Is Norway? So I guess this will be along similar lines. But yeah, I just want to learn more about Norway, and this time from a different source. So let's check it out and you can tell me what you think.
In June 2016, the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union in a controversial referendum known as Brexit. Many Brits who supported Brexit argued that the UK would be better off if it adopted the Norwegian model.
That's exactly what I said on that previous video. Not just with regards to the UK, but if Scotland gained independence, I asked, can we become a Nordic country, follow the Nordic model? Hopefully one day, that's what I pray for. Tell me, if you're from Norway also, what did you think of Britain leaving the EU? What did you think of Brexit? Do you think it was stupid? Do you see any benefit to it? Yeah.
Is remaining outside the EU while reaping some of the organization's economic benefits. But how well is this model working for the country? Just how powerful is Norway? Well, at nearly 150,000 square miles, or a bit larger than the US state of Montana, Norway is the second biggest Scandinavian country.
When you put it actually in comparison, when you see how successful Norway is, and you compare it to somewhere like Montana, which I don't know much about Montana. I don't know anything that's been innovated there. I don't know anything about the economy of that state, but when you see how successful Norway is, just based on landmass, it's quite an interesting comparison actually.
But with a population of about 5 million, the country has the lowest population density in all of continental Europe. Still, those who do live in Norway tend to be fairly well off.
Yeah, just what I wanted to say as well. This is why I compare it to Scotland, because in Scotland our population is about 5.5 million, so for Norway actually it's just slightly less, but to still be such a more prosperous country, that's where my envy comes from a little bit. But I'm really enjoying learning about Norway, and yeah, I just appreciate it actually.
The country has the third highest per capita GDP in Europe and the fourth highest in the world. This is partially due to Norway being the largest per capita producer of oil outside the Middle East, accounting for roughly a quarter of the country's nearly $400 billion GDP. While the global slump in gas prices has taken a huge toll on other oil-dependent economies like Brazil and Venezuela, Norway has been less affected. This is because over the years the country has stored much of its public money in its sovereign wealth fund, which is like an investment account for countries. And Norway's is reportedly the largest in the world.
Yeah, that's the one I've heard as well. I really am interested in that fund as well, just of how it's managed as well. I learned a little bit about that on the previous video as well. But I didn't really appreciate until just hearing here, yeah, how not only about in the long term how it's going to manage like when oil starts to run out, but to see how it manages these fluctuations in oil prices when we see things like the conflicts around the world, like in Russia or Ukraine, and any other wars or any other issues. Like obviously we see sometimes there's large fluctuations in oil prices, so to know that this sovereign wealth fund kind of insulates the quality of life and things like that in Norway is quite an interesting thing. It's almost like a good buffer for that as well, so it has many benefits, this wealth fund, rather than just long term. Also has short-term benefits, so that's actually quite a good thing I never knew.
Norway's economy also benefits from the country's unique arrangement with the EU. The so-called Norwegian model means that although Norway is not an official member, it has full access to the bloc's internal market, and it can trade most goods with member states duty-free.
Do you think, would you ever see any benefit to joining the EU if you're in Norway? Is there any reason, what's the reason they wouldn't join? I guess you get the benefit there of the single market, but is there any other benefits for not joining the EU? Can you ever see a time when they will join the EU?
More, it's not limited by the EU's strict internal trade policy, and thus has the freedom to negotiate free trade agreements with countries outside the organization.
Very good.
However, when it comes to Norway's defense, existing outside the EU does have certain disadvantages. Norway has little say in EU policies regarding regional security, which is problematic when dealing with Russia over their shared border. Still, Norway does benefit from its membership in NATO, which is crucial as the country is relatively weak on its own.
About that border with Russia, is there ever been any problems at the border with Norway and Russia? Would we ever envisage a moment where Russia invaded Norway or anything like that? Or being a part of NATO, I guess not, but has there ever been any conflict at that border?
Its military encompasses just 70,000 personnel and a $7 billion defense budget. Historically, Norway has built up its military through mandatory conscription. However, since the end of the Cold War, the country has relaxed its drafting policies, and in general, those who don't wish to serve are not forced to. That said, conscription is still an official civic responsibility, and in 2013, Norway became the first NATO and European country to expand this duty to women as well as men.
Okay, I never knew that. Tell me more about that. Have you been conscripted in Norway? Tell me more about the Norwegian military. That's definitely a subject I'll learn more about as I move on with this channel. But tell me about your experiences, if you've been in the military in Norway, if you did any sort of national service, anything like that. And tell me what you think about this move to draft women into the military as well.
As an economically stable and NATO-protected country, Norway is doing well. But like other Scandinavian countries, Norway is struggling to control an influx of migrants, integrate ethnic minorities, and navigate an aging population, all while maintaining its robust social safety net and economic competitiveness.
Yeah, tell me what that. I don't really know too much about the migrant issue in Norway. Of course, the only country in Northern Europe I really hear any stories from is Sweden, where it seems to be becoming a large problem in Sweden. There's a lot of crime, I guess, increase in crime and different things. What's the status in Norway? Is there large numbers of migrants there? Are they settling well? Has there been any problems with that over time? How is it being managed by the government? I've learned about Finland, and I guess Finland doesn't really seem to have the same problems as Sweden. How is it in Norway?
If many Brits had considered these and Norway's other domestic issues, perhaps they would have thought twice before choosing to go it alone. The Kingdom of Norway is also home to the Svalbard Seed Vault, one of the largest collections of seeds in the world, and Trace over on D News got to see the inside of it. You can learn more about the Doomsday Vault by watching this video here.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll probably watch a video on that. Tell me if you'd be interested to see a video about the Seed Vault. Seems like a very intriguing place, a great place for not just Norway, of course, but the world, for humanity. Seems like an interesting setup. I would love to learn more. Tell me what you know about that.
By digging a 130-meter tunnel deep into the mountain, the vault is underneath that permafrost, meaning they only had to cool it the remaining 12 Celsius. At that temperature, the 860,000 varieties currently in the vault can be held for decades.
Thanks for watching Seeker Daily. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos every day.
Awesome. So, yeah, that was a really interesting video again. I'm focusing on the Norwegian economy again. And yeah, the more I learn about it, not just the Norwegian economy, the sort of Nordic Norwegian model, just about everything in Norway, it just seems so fascinating, so interesting. I love the success story that Norway is. Just a very well-run country. I mean, like, when you look at the world today, you can't really say that about many countries. Being from the UK, definitely cannot say that. It's like, it feels like no matter who we vote in politically, whatever party, whether it's left or right, Conservatives, Labour Party, it feels like they're all quite useless, quite incompetent. We're never going. It's a country that's just stagnating and it's never going to move forward. There's no innovation. It's not well managed. When I see something like Norway, it just seems like completely the opposite. Everything seems great. I mean, not just how it's managed, but just the beauty of the country as well. So many beautiful places, so much amazing landscapes, so much going for it, especially for a country with such a small population. comparable to Scotland. I feel like it's just night and day between Scotland and Norway. So really loving learning about Norway. Tell me anything more interesting. Tell me what you're most proud of with regards to Norway, and recommend more videos. I'm going to be checking out more soon and learning as much as I can about Norway. Thanks.